Hi, this is Alan, and today on this video we're going to go through IBM's Infrastructure Optim Data Privacy for Unstructured Data, um, the interface. So we're just going to do a little brief introduction on the interface and just kind of navigating around the GUI. So I'm going to start up Optim for Unstructured. I'm going to double click on the icon. You'll see a splash screen that pops up for about 5 seconds, and then you'll get your the interface will then load. You can get rid of that splash screen, or you don't have to wait. If you just double click and click on the splash screen, it'll wipe off that splash screen immediately and go straight into the GUI. So basically, the interface starts off with the Generals tab. You're on the left-hand side, you've got several different tabs here. We'll go through them real briefly. The Generals tab just gives you some licensing information as well as some default settings. It also gives you this informational area here that you may, if there's some issues or licensing information, it'll pop up here if needed. The next tab is the Rules tab. So the rules are basically what rules are for Optim for Unstructured is basically instructions on what to find and what to mask. Find a social security number and find a regex pattern that indicates a social security number, and then what you want to replace it to. So rules are just text files or files that contain basic instructions of what you want to mask. It comes default with the sample rules file, so I suggest you check that out. In the rules file, this top section here in the blue, it stores all the rules. And basically, if I right-click an open file location, all the rules are in this reg rules subfolder. So if I click on reg rules, you see there's sample there. If I created a new text file and call this mask SSN, for example, and I put in a masking rule, over here, if I refresh, you'll see that now it's contained both of those. So basically, this is a reflection of the contents of that subfolder and the rules, and more about that later. So this will give you the contents of each rule file. You can create a new one. It'll just pop up your default editor. In my case, it's Notepad. You can delete it if you wanted to. And basically, you can edit it or just double click on it as well, and it'll open up your Notepad or your editor if you just double click on it. We also have the build execute. The build execute allows you to select a single file or a folder. In version 2.8, you can select a file by clicking a single file button. Or you can click on folder and specify a folder, and it'll mask all the files within that folder. You can also do recursive, so include all the subfolders as well. So you click single file, that'll open up your Explorer, and you navigate to a file, step one, and then you can either generate the script, which will just build a bat file for you, so you can execute that later, or through an API command or whatever, through the batch prompt. Or if you select on folder, you navigate and specify a folder path. You also specify the specific module that you want to use. So we'll go through the modules in the next chapter, but basically the modules are the executables that perform the task. Like for example, the PDF module. The PDF module is designed to process PDFs. So you'd select the PDF module, then select the PDF as a single file or a folder containing PDFs. If you want to execute it immediately, you'd uncheck the generate script only, then click on the set and run, which will appear. So this is where you kind of build an XML file and execute the module or create the batch file. And then you've got another tab called settings. You can specify some generic global settings, like you can change the repository for all the rules. You can change the default module that starts up, change the log path and things like that, some basic information. The other thing we have here is we have some buttons as well. So if I click on View Logs, when you execute the jobs, it writes the results out to a log file, and the default log file is in a folder. If I click on the View Logs, the default log file is in a folder. In my case, C IBM Infinite DPU logs, and the log file, every time an object runs, it'll create this. So you can see here that back in, was it January 24th, ran, tells you some basic information and any errors if errors pop up. We also have OpenXML. Each module has an associated XML file, so that gives you extra capabilities, extra parameters. So if I look at one, and there's more about this later as well, but if I look at, say for example, the flat file module, it gives you some XML fields that you can change and specify and modify for the execution of more tailoring for these executable modules. Then you've got the documentation. The documentation will actually click on the Start HTML that's in your subfolder, and you can click on Release Notes, for example, Installation, which will open up a PDF file as well, and will give you some basic information about connecting using Tesseract, OCR engine capabilities, and all these other stuff as well. So that's pretty much it on the GUI interface. Pretty straightforward. And so we'll end this video here and off to the next video.